Hello.
Yeah.
You put um the speaker on. So sorry, just a second. Okay.
So, Pat, if you care,
Uh-huh.
sometimes there's a problem with StreamYard where, for some reason, I think it has to do with the connection. Your icon will not show, so it'll show on yourself, but when people are watching or other people in the room
Mm-hmm.
don't see your icon. So, if you want people to be able to see your icon, I suggest
Mm-hmm.
you leave the room and come right back in.
Oh no, yes. I think it's because I turned the cam off, but it's because I'm trying to settle where I am.
Sure.
Just just a little bit. That's why it took me a little bit too long to come here.
Sure. Just letting you know
Mm-hmm.
that people can't see your icon right now. So if you want people to be able to see your picture, you just have to leave and come back in.
Okay.
Oh, that
It's
didn't
still there.
work.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I think
Okay.
I will have to try to figure out what happened, but it's because I haven't turned on my cam. I will in a second.
Oh,
I
okay.
will
All
in
right.
a second. Yes, yes, yes. So I just wanted to beforehand. I just want to apologize if I have to leave for a bit the live stream. Maybe if we pass the 2 hours mark, you know,
Oh, I wasn't thinking
just
it's going to take that long. This is
not just in case.
okay.
Just in
All right.
case,
Yeah.
just in case, you don't know how it's going to take you, like how long it's going to be, depending on if people will be interested. I can tell that Alexander was here, but
Yeah.
but he's
I
he,
don't know if
he's
they were here before this show even started, actually, because I came here on time and those were already up.
yeah, it's because, well, Alexander has 9 years old,
Oh, I
so
see. Yeah.
he's really small, so he go to bed like around 8:30, I think. So that's why he needs me to get on, like, in the live chat, maybe
Sure. Yeah.
5 or 6 p.m. And that's why he was like, that's what I'm reading here. And the other one is a Spanish one, but he also knows in English. He also knows English, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm guessing that his name for his channel is "Can I get 200,000 subs without a single video?"
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen that in English before. So, uh, yeah. So, should we talk about what we're gonna do here, or what do you
Yes.
want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait. Let me get the link so I can put it here. Um, Let me put
Well,
the.
I have the link for the short story.
No, but I also had it. I mean, I have it
Okay.
here so I can share it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to share it, but let me check, because I have this here, like complete mess.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the great thing about stories this old and this famous are, I'm pretty sure it's in the public domain. Uh, and so it's really great to be able to share and talk about these stories and not worry about stepping on anybody's earnings.
Yeah, that's good, because else we'll be like, okay, this is going to be strike. And I don't know if you got the message at StreamYard when you got in. Did you?
No, I don't see any messages in the private chat if that's what you're talking about.
No, no, no. There is a message before you enter the broadcast, and it says that if there is some sort of problem regarding to the virus that we all know, right?
Oh,
It's because Facebook and YouTube has been, like, really demanding on those topics.
oh, I
So
see. Okay, so
yeah,
we
so
might just automatically get cut off if we talk about a certain kind of beer.
exactly,
Sounds good.
exactly, that's what happened to me. That's what happened
That
to me. Like,
that's scary. That's just like China. That's really scary.
that's what happened to me, the last live stream, remember, that I talked about.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
deleted because of that specific thing, that small thing. So,
Yeah, I don't know what these companies think they're doing. They sure are acting like totalitarian governments.
mm, well, let's say that they are trying to cut the misinformation. That's what they're trying to do. That's what I wanted to think. But you know that they are going far beyond just
I
not
think I
getting
think
into.
totalitarian governments try to cut the quote misinformation unquote as well.
Mhm. But well, let's not get into that topic because that's too hot
Sure.
to handle.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the story.
Okay, let me get this out. So I'm just going to um maybe going to try and play a little bit with the screen. I just wanted to make sure if there is someone that gets online, I will be able to check the messages. So let me try
Yeah, that would be
and
great.
see
Yeah.
how I can do this. Okay.
Also, in case anybody's watching this afterwards, it'd probably be great to put in a time code or something when we start reading or start talking
Yeah,
about the main topic.
I can write that down. I can write that down. Let me turn on my camera. Okay, let me first share it. Then I'll turn the camera on. Okay, there you go.
Great.
Um, okay, so that's that. Let me try and see here. I think that's fine, right?
Yeah, yep. I'm gonna look on my screen just because it's a little bit bigger, but yep.
Yeah, yeah, because I don't I think I can do it. Just a little bit. Well, that fits the screen, I think. Okay, there you go. I think that's better.
Sure. So, should we talk about what we're gonna do before we do it, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is like something new for my channel, so this
Yeah,
is something that it's completely new even for me.
yeah.
So
I've never done anything like this, so I think this is really exciting. I also am not familiar with H.P. Lovecraft, but after we watched From Beyond and Reanimator, I was really interested in checking this out.
maybe next time, because we're going to read the next short story, we may have certain information regarding to H.P. Lovecraft. I
Hmm.
may guess that he had another or other short stories. I don't know if it's like
Yeah,
also
I
being
think he's got
put
at
in.
least a couple anthologies. Actually, he's very famous for his time period, and I
Mm.
know that sometimes we get to things that are going to be a bit disturbing. He's got very disturbing imagery, I've heard. Uh, so, yep, just have to keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, just the good things that we're doing it like in the perfect time is not for kids.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Well,
It's not for kids.
it's morning somewhere right now, but yeah,
Well, we will check and see if people gets in and see what's going to happen. So, you want to start? Should I
sure,
start?
sure. I'll start and I'll
Okay.
just read the first paragraph, and then you
Okay,
can
no,
take
no, but
over.
let's tell the audience what we're going to do first or why we are doing this. Do you want to tell them or you want me to tell them?
I think we're reading the story out of interest, and then we're going to talk about it after. And if anyone in the community wants to partake and join us, or make comments in the live chat, or even in the comments afterwards, that'd be really exciting to hear different perspectives.
Well, this started because we watched the movie From Beyond,
Hmm.
and it was a really for us was a really great movie, even though it's I think it was what 1982, 1985.
I don't even remember, but yeah, it's earlier. Yeah.
It's an old movie, and we wanted to know a little bit more about the background of the story. So, H.P. Lovecraft had a short story dedicated to that, and from that it came the movie. So that's why we wanted to go like back into time and check the story and compare the short
Hmm.
story and the movie. So if you haven't watched the movie, which will be perfect for you to try to search it out. There is certain links if you want us to put the description in the description. We'll maybe we can put the link. I don't know if that it's available. Do you think that will be possible?
Well, I think you could give them any link that you have, but I would suggest that.
Maybe
But you're
just the
probably not going
name
to get
of
any
the
trouble. But
movie.
yeah, if we just tell them From Beyond in the year, if I
Yeah.
I can tell them the specific year, 1986. So
Eh,
if you
okay.
look for the film From Beyond, 1986, that's the one that we're comparing this, and that's the movie that's been inspired by this. It's a full-length film, even though this is a short story. But I'm guessing that the imagery is going to be similar, in that there's a lot of creature effects and gore effects in the film, and I'm expecting we're going to find that sort of language here.
Yes, exactly. So that's what we're doing now. So we're going to start reading the short story and we're trying to remember because we watched the movie maybe 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago,
Something like that, yeah,
something like that. Yeah. So we're trying to remember if there is a similarity in between the short story and the movie, right?
for sure.
Okay. So you can start.
Okay, so I'll read the title in the first paragraph, and then you'll take the next paragraph. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
From Beyond by H.P. Lovecraft. Horrible beyond conception was the change which had taken place in my best friend, Crawford Tillinghast. I had not seen him since that day, 2 months and a half before, when he had told me toward what goal his physical and metaphysical researches were leading. When he had answered my odd and almost frightened remonstrances by driving me from his laboratory and his house in a burst of fanatical rage. I had known that he had not remained mostly shut in the attic. Oh, sorry. I had known
Mm-hmm.
that he now remained mostly shut in the attic laboratory with that accursed electrical machine, eating little and excluding even the servants. But I had not thought that a brief period of 10 weeks could so alter and disfigure any human creature. It is not pleasant to see a stout man suddenly grow thin, and it is even worse when the baggy skin becomes yellowed or grayed, the eyes sunken, circled, and uncannily glowing, the forehead veined and corrugated, and the hands tremulous and twitching. And if added to this, there be a repellent unkemptness, a wild disorder of stress, a bushiness of dark hair, white at the roots, and an unchecked growth of pure white beard on a face once clean shaven, the cumulative effect is quite shocking. But sure was the aspect of Crawford Tillinghast. On the night his half-coherent message brought me to his door after my weeks of exile. Such the spectre that trembled as it admitted me, candle in hand, and glanced furtively over its shoulder as if fearful of unseen things in the ancient, lonely house set back from Benevolent Street.
Okay, just to stop there. Are we going to do a commentary in between paragraphs or are we going to keep on reading
It's pretty
and then
short. Why don't we read the whole thing and then comment?
sure. It's because sometimes we may want to maybe highlight things.
But
So
people
this
might be more interested in the story or they might be more interested in our commentary. And if we split them up, then that can leave those people to choose.
yeah. Yeah, it could be. Okay.
It's your
So
channel. We'll do whatever you want to do.
yeah, I mean, I'm just starting. I mean, this is the first time that we're trying this. So let's try and read it completely. So I'm just going to again apologize if I don't know a specific word. I'm not the perfect English speaker, so that Crawford Tillinghast should ever have studied science and philosophy was a mistake. These things should be left to the frigid and impersonal investigator, for they offer two equally tragic alternatives to the man of feeling and action: despair if he fail in his quest, and terrors unutterable. I don't know how to pronounce that. In
Unutterable.
unutterable. and
Unutterable. Yeah, it can't be uttered. Yep.
and uh, unimaginable if he succeeded. Tillinghast had once been the prey of failure, solitary, and melancholy. But now I knew, with nauseating fears of my own, that he was the prey of success. I had indeed warned him 10 weeks before, when he burst forth with his tale of what he felt himself about to discover. He had been flushed and excited then, talking in a high and unnatural, though always pedantic, voice.
What do we know, he had said, of the world and the universe about us? Our means of receiving impressions are absurdly few, and our notions of surrounding objects infinitely narrow. We see things only as we are constructed to see them, and can gain no idea of their absolute nature. With five feeble senses, we pretend to comprehend the boundlessly complex cosmos. Yet other beings with a wider, stronger, and different range of senses might not only see very differently the things we see, but might see and study whole worlds of matter, energy, and life which lie close at hand, yet can never be detected with the senses we have. I have always believed that such strange, inaccessible worlds exist at our very elbows. And now I believe I have found a way to break down the barriers. I am not joking. Within 24 hours, that machine near the table will generate waves acting on unrecognized sense organs that exist in us as atrophied or rudimentary vestiges. Those waves will open up to us many vistas unknown to man, and several unknown to anything we consider organic life. We shall see that at which dogs howl in the dark, and that at which cats prick up their ears after midnight. We shall see these things, and other things which no breathing creature has yet seen. We shall overleap time, space, and dimensions, and without bodily motion peer to the bottom of creation.
When Tillinghast said these things, I remonstrated, for I knew him well enough to be frightened rather than amused. But he was a fanatic, and drove me from the house. Now he was no less a fanatic, but his desire to speak had conquered his resentment, and he had written me imperatively, ah, imperatively, in a hand I could scarcely recognize. As I entered the abode of the friend so suddenly metamorphosed to shivering gargoyle, I became infected with the terror which seemed stalking in all the shadows. The words and beliefs expressed 10 weeks before seemed bodied forth in the darkness beyond the small circle of candlelight, and I sickened at the hollow, altered voice of my host. I wished the servants were about, and did not like it when he said they had all left 3 days previously. It seems strange that old Gregory, at least, should desert should desert his master without telling as trite a friend as I. It was he who had given me all the information I had of Tillinghast after I was repulsed in rage.
Yet I soon subordinated all my fears to my growing curiosity and fascination. Just what Crawford Tillinghast now wished of me I could only guess, but that he had some stupendous secret or discovery to impart I could not doubt. Before I had protested at his unnatural pryings into the unthinkable. Now that he had evidently succeeded to some degree, I almost shared his spirit, terrible though the cost of victory appeared. Up through the dark emptiness of the house, I followed the bobbing candle in the hand of this shaking parody on man. The electricity seemed to be turned off, and when I asked my guide, he said it was for a definite reason.
It would be too much. I would not dare, he continued to mutter. I especially noted his new habit of muttering, for it was not like him to talk to himself. We entered the laboratory in the attic, and I observed that detestable electrical machine, glowing with a sickly, sinister, violet luminosity. It was connected with a powerful chemical battery, but seemed to be receiving no current. But I recalled that in this experimental stage, it had sputtered and purred when in action. In reply to my question, Tillinghast mumbled that this permanent glow was not electrical in any sense that I could understand.
He now seated me near the machine, so that it was on my right, and turned a switch somewhere below the crowning cluster of glass bulbs. The usual sputtering began, turned to a whine, and terminated in a drone so soft as to suggest a return to silence. Meanwhile, the luminosity increased, waned again, then assumed a pale autre.
Autre?
Yeah,
Autre?
okay,
Hmm.
autre. Okay, I've never seen that color.
It's French.
Yeah, I can tell. Uh, color of blend. Sorry, autre color of blend of colors or blend of colors,
Hmm.
which I could neither place nor describe. Tillinghast has been watching me and noted had been watching me and noted my puzzled expression.
Do you know what that is? He whispered. That is ultraviolet. He chuckled oddly at my surprise. You thought ultraviolet was invisible, and so it is. But you can see that and many other invisible things now.
Listen to me. The waves from that thing are waking 1,000 sleeping senses in us. Senses which we inherit from aeons of evolution, from the state of detached electrons to the state of organic humanity. I have seen truth, and I intend to shew it to you. I bet you that's supposed to be show it to you.
Hmm.
Do you wonder how it will seem? I will tell you. Here, Tillinghast seated himself directly opposite me, blowing out his candle and staring hideously into my eyes. Your existing sense organs, ears first, I think, will pick up many of the impressions, for they are closely connected with the dormant organs. Then there will be others. You have heard of the pineal gland? I laugh at the shallow endocrinist, fellow dupe, and fellow parvenu of the Freudian. That gland is the great sense organ of organs. I have found out it is like sight in the end and transmits visual pictures to the brain. If you are normal, that is the way you ought to get most of it. I mean, get most of the evidence from beyond.
I looked about the immense attic room with the sloping south wall, dimly lit by rays with the everyday eye cannot see. The far corners were all shadows, and the whole place took on a hazy unreality which obscured its nature and invited the imagination to symbolism and phantasm. During the interval that Tillinghast was silent, I fancied myself in some vast and incredible temple of long dead gods, some vague edifice of innumerable black stone columns reaching up from a floor of damp lamps to a cloudy height beyond the range of my vision. The picture was very vivid for a while, but gradually gave way to a more horrible conception, that of utter, absolute solitude in infinite, sightless, soundless space. There seemed to be a void, and nothing more, and I felt a childish fear which prompted me to draw from my hip pocket the revolver I always carried after dark, since the night I was held up in East Providence. Then, from the farthermost regions of remoteness, the sound softly glide into existence. It was infinitely faint, subtly vibrant, and unmistakably musical, but held a quality of surpassing wildness which made its impact feel like a delicate torture of my whole body. I felt sensations like those one feels when accidentally scratching ground glass. Simultaneously, there, there developed something like a cold draught, which apparently swept past me from the direction of the distant sound. As I waited breathlessly, I perceived that both sound and wind were increasing. The effect be, being to give me an odd notion of myself as tied to a pair of rails in the path of a gigant, gigantic, yeah,
That's right.
gigantic approaching locomotive. I began to speak to Tillinghast, and as I did, so all the unusual impressions abruptly vanished. I saw only the man, the glowing machine, and the dim apartment. Tillinghast was grinning repulsively, and the revolver which I had almost unconsciously drawn, but from his expression, I was sure he had seen and heard as much as I, if not a great deal more. I whispered what I had experienced, and he bade me to remain as quiet and receptive as possible.
Don't move, he cautioned, for in these rays we are able to soon be seen as well as to see. I told you the servants left, but I didn't tell you how. It was that thick-witted housekeeper. She turned on the light downstairs after I'd warned her not to, and the wires picked up sympathetic vibrations. It must have been frightful. I could hear the screams up here in spite of all I was seeing and hearing from another direction, and later it was rather awful to find those empty heaps of clothes around the house. Mrs. Updike's clothes were close to the front hall switch. That's how I know she did it. It got them all. But so long as we don't move, we're fairly safe. Remember, we're dealing with a hideous world in which we are practically helpless. Keep still.
The combined shock of the revelation and of the abrupt command gave me a kind of paralysis, and in my terror, my mind again opened to the impressions coming from what Tilling has called beyond. I was now in a vortex of sound and motion, with confused pictures before my eyes. I saw the blurred outlines of the room, but from some point in space, there seemed to be a they seemed to be purring a seething column of unrecognizable shapes or clouds, penetrating the solid roof at a point ahead and to the right of me. Then I glimpsed the temple-like effect again, but this time the pillars reached up into the aerial ocean of light, which sent down one blinding beam along the path of the cloudy column I had seen before. After that, the scene was almost wholly kaleidoscopic, and in the jumble of sights, sounds, and unidentified sense impressions, I felt that I was about to dissolve or in some way lose the solid form. One definite flash I shall always remember. I seemed for an instant to behold a patch of strange night sky filled with shining, revolving spheres, and as it receded, I saw that the glowing suns formed a constellation of or galaxy of settled shape. This shape being the distorted face of Crawford Tillinghast. At another time, I felt the huge animate things brushing past me and occasionally walking or drifting through my supposedly solid body, and I thought I saw Tillinghast look at them as though he better trained senses could catch them visually. I recall what he had said of the pineal gland, and wondered what he saw with this preternatural eye.
Suddenly, I myself became possessed of a kind of augmented sight. Over and above the luminous and shadowy chaos arose a picture which, though vague, held the elements of consistency and permanence. It was indeed somewhat familiar, for the unusual part was superimposed upon the usual terrestrial scene, much as a cinema view may be thrown upon the painted curtain of a theater. I saw the attic laboratory, the electric machine, and the unsightly form of Tillinghast opposite of me. But of all the space unoccupied by familiar material objects, not one particle was vacant. Indescribable shapes, both alive and otherwise, were mixed in disgusting disarray, and close to every known thing were whole worlds of alien, unknown entities. It likewise seemed that all the known things entered into the composition of other unknown things, and vice versa. Foremost among the living objects were great inky jellyfish monstrosities which flabbily quivered in harmony with the vibrations from the machine. They were present in loathsome profusion, and I saw to my horror that they overlapped, that they were semi-fluid and capable of passing through one another and through what we know as solids. These things were never still, but seemed ever floating about this with some malignant purpose. Sometimes they appeared to devour one another, the attacker launching itself at its victim and instantaneously obliterating the latter from sight. Shudderingly, I felt that I knew what had obliterated the unfortunate servants, and could not exclude the things from my mind as I strove to observe other properties of the newly visible world that lies unseen around us. But Tillinghast had been watching me and was speaking.
You see them? You see them? You see the things that float and flop about you and through you every moment of your life? You see the creatures that form what men call the pure air and the blue sky? Have I not succeeded in breaking down the barrier? Have I not yet shown you worlds that no one living men have seen? I heard him scream through the horrible chaos, and look at the wild face thrust so offensively close to mine. His eyes were pits of flame, and they glared at me with what I know so was overwhelming hatred. The machine droned detestably.
You think those floundering things wiped out the servants? Fool! They are harmless! But the servants are gone, aren't they? You tried to stop me. You discouraged me when I needed every drop of encouragement I could get. You were afraid of the cosmic truth, you damned coward, but now I've got you. What swept up the servants? What made them scream so loud? Don't know, eh? You'll know soon enough. Look at me. Listen to what I say. Do you suppose that there are really any such things as time and magnitude? Do you fancy there are such things as form and or matter? I tell you, I have struck depths that your little brain can't picture. I have seen beyond the bounds of infinity and drawn down daemons from the stars. I have harnessed the shadows that stride from world to world to sow death and madness. Space belongs to me. Do you hear? Things are haunting me now. The things that devour and dissolve, but I know how to elude them. It is you they will get, as they got the servants. Stirring, dear sir? I told you it was dangerous to move. I have saved you so far by telling you to keep still. Saved you to see more sights and to listen to me. If you had moved, they would have been at you long ago. Don't worry, they won't hurt you. They didn't hurt the servants. It was seeing that made the poor devil scream so. My pets are not pretty, for they come out of places where aesthetic standards are very different. Disintegration is quite painless, I assure you. but I want you to see them. I almost saw them, but I knew how to stop. You are not curious? I always knew you were no scientist. Trembling, eh? Trembling with anxiety to see the ultimate things I have discovered? Why don't you move then? Tired? Well, don't worry, my friend, for they are coming. Look! Look, curse you, look! It's just over your left shoulder.
What remains to be told is very brief and may be familiar to you from the newspaper accounts. The police heard a shot in the old Tillinghast house and found us there, Tillinghast dead, and me unconscious. They arrested me because the revolver was in my hand, but released me in 3 hours after they found it was apoplexy which had finished Tillinghast, and saw that my shot had been directed at the nauseous machine which now lay hopelessly shattered on the laboratory floor. I did not tell very much of what I have seen, for I feared the coroner will be skeptical. But from the evasive outline I did give, the doctor told me that I had undoubtedly been hypnotized by the vindictive and homicidal madman.
I wish I could believe that, Doctor. It would help my shaky nerves if I could dismiss what I know I have to think of the air and the sky about and above me. I never feel alone or comfortable, and a hideous sense of pursuit sometimes comes chillingly on me when I am weary. What prevents me from believing the doctor is this one simple fact that the police never found the bodies of those servants whom they say Crawford Tillinghast murdered.
Interesting.
Ooh, that was really good. Yeah.
Interesting. That was really good. Yes. The thing is that at certain point of the story, it just got like really philosophical. But I think it got what they shown in the movie or what they tried to show in the movie.
Yeah. Actually, well, I sort of assumed this. I'm really impressed with how good this was in the original. Uh, I've been sort of fascinated with the ability to do good short stories lately because, you know, nowadays movies, I think we've talked about this, movies are so long uh, and ponderous, and books seem to be really big as well. And I'm just really fascinated with being able to tell a good story in a short amount of time. And I think this really does it. I was expecting to be a little bit disappointed by it, actually. Uh, but
No,
yeah.
it seems like they try to make it look better for that time, so that's why they have to add like the cute psychologist or psychiatrist
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
in that movie because it has to be like, you know, there are certain elements that obviously the short story didn't have, like
Yep. Yep.
was the girl, the
Hmm.
nude scenes, sex, and the black policeman. I'm sorry that I have to say black, but it will be like the person of color. But
Okay.
because I think at that time they were like predominantly men of color, like to be the strong man. I think from the police, and that's why it has to be there. I'm guessing.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought that I actually I don't remember the race of the police officer at the end. But yeah, they obviously, to fill out a 2 hour film, they had to add so much detail. And one of the things I'm really curious about, because we haven't researched H.P. Lovecraft or this story at all before we read this. This was our first time reading it.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
I'm really interested in terms of, I don't know how much they knew about schizophrenia back then, but in the film, they clearly talk about schizophrenia, and they have these examples at the beginning of the film of these people that are in these cages talking about schizophrenia and things,
Hmm.
and they're seeing things in the room, and they're hypersexualized and things like that. And then later in the film, when the pineal gland is stimulated, and apparently the way that it's hyperstimulated in people with schizophrenia, I don't
Hmm.
know, I've never researched this, but apparently that's the case. Uh, then they start seeing and behaving this way, like in the film. And I thought that was a really scary dimension there, because one of the most terrifying things is losing your mind, because there's
Exactly.
no way out of that.
Exactly. Exactly. And there were certain points that was interesting. Like, let me try. Like, I was writing things down. He was mentioning something about his truth, and I think it has to do with the schizophrenia that you mentioned.
Right, right.
He was like, "This is my truth." So he is talking about parallel universe and cosmos and stuff like that. He's like, "This is me. I am portraying myself like a different person, but it might be just schizophrenia, just like I'm Wacko Jacko, and that's it."
Oh, that's really interesting. It could be like a hypnotist with schizophrenia. That could be the explanation for this whole thing. But
Exactly, because he
also, it could be this supernatural world that's all around us.
exactly that's the good thing, because the short story never exactly explains what's going on. It just leave it up to chance. It's like it's there. We don't know what happened to the servants, which is something that they didn't use. I think they didn't use
Yeah,
that in the movie.
yeah. In fact, somebody, yeah, the partner is running from the main doctor. Like the assistant is running from the main doctor, and I don't know if it was a maid or a neighbor or someone sees him chasing him with an axe, and she gets scared, thinking that the assistant is chasing her with an axe, and that's how he
No, but
gets locked up.
no, but remember that that was the lady that lost the dog because she was the
Right,
neighbor.
right. There we go. She was the neighbor. That's right.
She
Yeah.
was
So they didn't have the servants at all.
It seems to that
Yeah.
he didn't have any servants, and the assistant in the short story is a friend, and it seems like it's a good friend.
That's right. Yeah. My best friend is starts out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's, I mean, they decided to change this. I don't know why. Because that will have explained why the assistant didn't kill the guy and he shot the machine, or he like turned off the machine or whatever. That's what he did, I think.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah. I wonder if the bullet would have just passed through the tilling gas, but yeah, he didn't try to hurt the friend. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and in the movie they added more gore
Oh
by
yeah,
taking
yeah.
taking the head out of the body of that man. So
Oh, did
um,
they was that From Beyond, or was that Reanimator? The head.
let me remember.
I think that was Reanimator. Well, there it definitely happened in Reanimator where he removed it with a shovel. We're getting ahead of ourselves talking about that other one, but uh, yeah, I don't remember exactly, because this one he became this weird creature that like
Yeah, but
was hanging down.
I don't remember. I want to remember what happened. I want to remember how he supposedly died.
They
How the
blew up.
doctor
They
died.
blew things up. I think they had dynamite or something, and
No,
they
no, no.
blew up
That was in the end of the movie.
right at the end. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was in the end of the movie. First, he was with the doctor and the machine, and then
He got chased out of there with the axe, and then the lady that had lost her dog or whatever got scared away. That was how it started. And then they went back, and Tillinghast wasn't there until they turned on the machine.
mm-hmm.
And then they went. I seem to remember they maybe had sex and ate. They ate a couple times, didn't they? They were eating a
Yeah,
lot, I seem to think. Yeah.
yeah. Let me check. I really want to like check. I'm not sure how this doctor died. Um,
Yeah, we've seen a movie together since then. That was a
yeah,
while ago. Yeah.
yeah. His head twisted off by a
Oh.
creature from the fourth dimension.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I
That
didn't remember that.
Yeah, that's why. And he said, though death, he won't go away. Assuming one ghastly shape after another, he makes life a living hell from his former assistant, whatever. So that's why I remember that it was that he got his head off. I
Oh,
remember
okay.
that because I remember
Good
the
job.
shape. Um, and that's something different because that in the movie was resembling that there was a creature on that side
Hmm.
that took his head off, but it's because he wanted to create a new being in this fourth dimension. So all of this psychological, physiological, or all of the information that is being brought in the short story, um, was just portrayed as the fourth dimension.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Uh, yeah. And he really is a villain in this, whereas in the movie, he I would say I felt more sorry for him in that, like, obviously he
In
was
the
really
show,
evil at the end, but he had been corrupted, right? Where in this one, it seems like
he
I
is
don't know if we
trouble.
should assume that he was corrupted by this machine or this experience, but
No, I think he was. I mean, with the short story, I felt that he was troubled.
okay,
That he was like being chased by something, because he mentioned that in the short
right,
story.
yeah,
Like, I've been chased by this.
yeah, but I know how to evade them, and
Exactly.
they'll get you, yeah.
And he also mentioned about pets. Like, all of these creatures that were around,
Oh yeah, he called them my
them
pets.
as pets. So he was trying to create like a familiar story surrounding him, just to feel safe. And I think it was his own demons trying to like get out.
Okay.
So let me see if there is something that I want to take from the story, because I was reading, but I wasn't like taking notes from what I was
Right.
reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they still use the attic, so that's the same symbol. It's like it has to be or the attic or the what's this called?
Basement.
The basement.
Yeah,
Yes, thank
yeah. I Those are great places to have horror stories because they're creepy.
you.
I
Exactly.
find attics, because they're all crouched and usually they're filled with things and they have lots of corners and maybe there's bugs in them and things like that. And the basement is always locked away from the sun and it's cold and dark and you never know who's down there.
You know, we don't have that kind of stuff here. Like,
Oh, really? Okay.
we don't have attics, and we don't have basements.
We don't really have attics anymore. And a lot of times basements are just finished. So nowadays they're just kind of like another floor and you
Uh
would have a
huh.
lot of lighting. But
Okay.
when I was a kid, we had an unfinished basement. And I remember that was a very creepy place when you went
I
down
I
there.
I could. I will definitely tell that it could be a really creepy place.
Yeah.
I mean, you will only. I will guess that you will only see like, I don't know, woods that are standing, that the house standing in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and standing on. I'm sorry, and with all of the stuff in there, because the typical that you're going to leave everything there, and then you have the chimney, I think, or and
Well, depends. We never had a fireplace, so we never had a chimney.
or what do you have there, like, to maybe the heating system? Maybe will be like in the basement.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a furnace in the basement. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because we don't have that, for instance. So that's why we don't need that.
And
It's already too hot.
the other thing, I don't know if this would be true as much in the attic. We didn't have an attic, but in the basement, a lot of times the house is settling, and so even when there's no one upstairs moving around, sometimes it sounds like people are moving around, like ghosts or something. It's a
but
very
it's
creepy place.
but it's because everything is built out of wood.
Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is that it just seems so much like a person is up there.
Yeah, but it's because you're building things out of
I
wood.
understand. Yeah, I
But
understand.
for us in here, everything is cement.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Everything is cement. Everything is like well built, and it's really difficult to hear something. The only thing that you will hear here, for instance, it will be if there is a lot of wind. You will hear a sound like if someone was crying, but
Oh, right.
it's because of how the sound goes through the leaves of the trees that we have here in the garden. So you will hear like someone is whispering or shouting or screaming, depending on how strong the wing is.
Yeah, in the fall, branches are so creepy when the wind's going through them at night. Yeah,
Yeah, it makes a really like scary movement. Like the
yeah.
branches.
Did you
Like,
see that film Poltergeist? Poltergeist.
I think I saw it like a little bit.
In that, there's a little girl that's being tormented by
Mhm.
ghosts, and she's attacked, or maybe her brother's attacked or something by this tree in the backyard.
Oh,
It's storming, and then it comes alive and like attacks into the window, and it's just such a perfect like horror story that this thing, because I don't know about you, but anything that's moving with shadows that kind of looks like fingers at night, that was creepy when I was a kid.
yeah, of course. Especially when you're a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when you're a kid. Let me check if there is something that we're missing out.
I think that's really the key to good horror, is that it taps into those things that we all sort of believed when we were a child, and we've sort of grown out of them. But then, like, I wonder how many people, when reading this story over the decades that people have read this, looked over their left shoulder when they were reading that one line about look, damn you.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I mean the story changes just in the end. And I think that's why it just had to like be created like a little bit more sensational for the screen.
Oh yeah, you could have this on screen for 5 minutes, but if you were just to leave it to what H.P. Lovecraft wrote, you couldn't make a film out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because all of this scenery of having this eye coming out, or I don't know if it was an eye coming out from your forehead and going
Oh
around and eating brains or
yeah, it was
sucking from the eye.
right. Yeah, it was the pineal gland that came out of his head. Yeah,
Yes, and he was eating from the other person's eye, something.
right. I forgot about that. I did see that clip because the where I heard about these two films was by Red Letter Media. Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
They are a YouTube channel, and I think they have their own website and everything like that. They're film guys. They've even made their own silly little films, and they are just brilliant in terms of reviewing films. They're very entertaining, but they really understand the art of filmmaking. And I've learned so much from watching that channel. And that's where I heard about this, is they did a review for each of these. And so I saw a few clips and heard what the story was about and really enjoyed it and was interested in checking it out.
Okay. Sounds interesting, but you have to put the name of the YouTube channel.
Sure. I'll put it in your chat there. Yeah, in fact, I probably watch them review more films than I watch. I really enjoy their commentary and everything.
Well, it doesn't seem to be too difficult to do a commentary with the short story there. And first of all, you're watching the movie and then get into the short story. Maybe we should do that. Well, in the next short story, if we knew, if we can read it first, and then we
Oh,
watch the movie, because
sure.
that will create a different commentary, I
Yeah,
guess.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when we do, I think our plan is to do Reanimator next. And so when we do that, I think we're planning on like looking into H.P. Lovecraft. I will, at least, so that we have a couple interesting things to say about the story or about him. Yeah.
Maybe there is another. Maybe there is another movie made.
Well,
Let me check.
there's Bride of Reanimator, but I don't. I'm guessing that's not based off a short story. I think that sounds
Hmm.
like a movie franchise thing.
Let me check. Oh, he died really early. Like 46 years. 46 years old.
Oh wow.
Um, uh, biography. mm,
Oh, he's got so much work. Wow. Uh,
Uh-huh.
if we wanted to, we could make a whole series out of this, Pat.
Well, we'll have to take like the easy things to check because he
Sure.
seems to be like really I mean he goes into that kind of stories which I think it sounds amazing, but I don't know if the people, I mean, if people will actually enjoy that. That's why I wanted to see if someone will be reacting to this or someone wanted to like, for instance, there is something that is called Weird Tales. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it
Uh,
doesn't look like Bride of Reanimator was his. Yeah, but there's a lot of other. I bet you there's a lot of films based on this stuff. Yeah. And
mhm.
for anybody watching, I think it takes a special sort of person to be interested in Lovecraft. That's why I've always avoided him. I didn't think I'd like him, but I am enjoying it. But Pat is really interested in building a community here, and so if you guys are interested in seeing something else, let her know, and we'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell that we can have lots of short stories. I mean, at least to do commentary about this guy. And there is, he talks about mythms, I think. Well, I'm reading it in Spanish, so but it has like, what is this called? Let me check this. Macabre Tales. Dagon and other macabre tales. Macabre stories. Let me show you the link so you know what I'm talking about.
I think that's from the French as well. I think it's macabre. That's how you say that. Macabre.
Macabre?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that one word, outre. I'd never seen that before. What does that mean, outre?
Ultra? What?
Yeah, it was a French color. You said.
Oh, ultra. But
And
that's a French word.
okay,
Uh-huh.
unusual and startling. Oh, it's in English too. Okay.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Outre. Outre.
Ultra. Mm-hmm. Look, you have what? 39 shorts, I think short stories or tales. And it's only macabre, macabre, macabre tales. Dagon, and other macabre tales.
Yeah, macabre tales. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Fiction, revisions, collaborations, and miscellaneous minor works, as well as some tales that are not extant. Dates of each of these are based primarily. Oh, so the dates are based on somebody that put these together as a chronology and anthology.
Mm-mm.
Wow. Okay. So 1908 to 1933. So he did it for 25 years.
Exactly. So he was like getting all of these stories until he knew that this was going to be it, just to deliver it, I guess. It's interesting.
I'm really impressed with short stories. Like I said before, I think it's sort of like brevity when you're trying to make a point. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to say something in very short time is a great skill.
Yeah, but it depends on how you use your, um, let's say, your words, because sometimes you're just saying something, but you're not telling anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And he is using a lot. I mean, a lot of pictures. I mean, he's creating pictures in your mind, and it's almost exactly as what you watched in the movie. I mean, he was mentioning all of these like gooey figures moving around you, right? And he
Right.
was like passing through things, even though that wasn't the best time to do all of this scenario, right? Because they didn't have all of the technology that they have now. But I wonder if they do a remake.
Oh, I hope they don't. I really liked that film. I really enjoy the style that it was done. You know, I don't think I would watch the remake, but I probably would be not happy about it.
Well, it depends. It depends because
Yeah.
it has to be faithful or trustful to the short story and to the movie itself.
When you were
I,
talking about the black cop, you didn't mean a cop. You were talking about the security guard for the
exactly. I mean,
oh, right, right,
for me, it was like a cop. I mean,
right.
it made me feel like he was the law there.
That
That's
makes
what he
sense.
made me
Yeah.
feel.
I understand your point earlier that you made. Yeah, I think it's very common for minorities, especially well-built minorities, to be working in places like that in security because it doesn't take the same level as education as a different position, and yet they are able to make money and have a good job. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So he was like, I am the authority, but I am the one that may be dying first.
Mhm.
So that's like the first thought that I had, especially because of all of the resources that they're using in the movies, right? Certain people will die first. And that's the other part of the story. And then I don't want to like spoil the end of the movie if someone is watching this, but it doesn't it doesn't end as how it ends in the short story, right? Or it's like half of it. It's half of it. I'm not going to say much because I don't want to ruin anyone's if someone is really following the live stream. But I guess that will also change a little bit of the perspective of the short story. What do you think?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it'll color it. Yeah. In fact, I wonder what assumptions we made about such a short story after watching the film. You know, we might have seen the film and seen certain things that they developed on, and this is so laconic that when we read it, we might have just assumed or remembered things that we saw in the film.
Yeah, especially with the comment. I'm sorry, with the feeling of the let's say best friend of the doctor that was saying after all of this happened. So now we have like what he felt,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? So we didn't have exactly what he felt. I don't know if you get my point. I
No,
mean,
no, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
because he was straight in the psychiatrist, I guess, because he was there. He was, I think he talked to the psychiatrist, and then they they start talking about the project, but they never ask him how he felt about what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember or I don't recall what he was feeling or what he said about the doctor because obviously he was an assistant, so he couldn't like develop any feeling from him. I mean,
Do you mean at the beginning of the film?
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think because
I think he did have a rant at the beginning. I
no,
think when the doctor first talks to him, he's really upset.
yeah, but he's upset at the end of this show. Supposedly,
Oh, right. Yep. Yep.
if you try to manage the time frame in between the short story, how it ended, and the movie and how it moved, because remember the short story ends when the movie just starts.
I never, you know, I feel like an idiot now that you say that, but I never realized that. I didn't take it that way at all. I thought it was a different telling of the same story. Uh
No, it was
wow,
like
wow, I feel like a dummy. Yeah, that's really obvious now. Yep, yep.
it's like they are doing, let's say
It's
they're
like a
doing this
sequel, yeah.
sequel.
Yeah.
Exactly, they're doing a sequel, but we never got that chance to know what he was feeling because in the movie he was portrayed as the assistant, but in
Mm-hmm.
the short story he was portrayed as the best friend, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, or a friend, and
Mm-hmm.
he was saying what he felt because as you said he had a complete huge rant
Yep.
about what was going on and what he was investigating and all of this new, because they portrayed it as, oh, this is the best, this is something that it's going to I don't know, saying that that was like the best thing ever. But they never said anything about the doctor, or I don't remember anything that he said about the doctor. Just like the
Yeah,
short story said
I,
it.
I yeah, I remember um, him saying that it drove him mad or something like that, and that he was like he disappeared or something. Yeah, I don't remember exactly the details of what he
Exactly,
said.
but he
Yeah,
was only telling what happened.
right.
He only said what was happening, but he never said, I felt this. And I think he said something like that in the end.
Did he rebuild the machine at the beginning of the film? Did he reconstruct it, or did he just turn it on?
He remember that at that time he took the connectors,
Mm-hmm.
because this machine had like two or three connectors in the bottom. So he unplugged them.
Mm-hmm. And then he
And
put
he,
it back together. Okay.
and he did something else, I think, because he said I destroy it. I remember that he said
Oh, okay.
I destroyed his work because no one has to do it. And that's why the psychiatrist was like, but this is like a huge improvement because we are investigating about the all of this, whatever thing she was really focused on. And I think she brought her dad, I'm sorry, right? That something happened to her dad about the
That's Grant.
schizophrenia.
The
And that's why she was so like
Oh, okay.
involved into getting this to work, because she was saying that this was a huge improvement and you don't know how much this will make for the people that are having mental disorders. And that's why they decided to go back to the house and get all the things started, because he was like, no, I'm never going to go back to that place again.
Okay, well that's great because I don't remember any of that. So it's great that you have such a good memory for this stuff. This is not the first time where you've remembered a lot more of the film than I have. Good job.
It's because I really like to focus on the details sometimes, even though I don't want to. I I have lost that like in time, but I'm usually the person that I'm remembering things that have happened like maybe 6 months ago,
Oh yeah, yep.
right? And I usually work with numbers. So
Oh
people
yeah.
are just asking me, hey, do you remember I don't know, do you remember the code that we used at that time that this happened? And I'm like, okay, yeah. The number is blah, blah, blah. But remember, you have to do this and that and that. So I think that's a good thing and the bad thing.
Yeah.
I tend to remember
I
if
think that
I
I think that's great. Yeah, I don't have a good memory like that. I remember ideas but not details.
I mean, I wish I could remember the whole thing, but I have to like talk about it over and over, and I will get more vision, like more visuals of it. So that's why I'm telling you, like, I need to like read read it again, like get it again, certain words.
Sure.
That's why I was just like writing it down so I can get it and refresh my mind. So what I wanted to say, like, for instance, I remember that he said something about that he didn't want to be left alone, but he was rumbling when he was at the psychiatrist. But I wanted to say that in here in this short story, he said that he never felt alone or comfortable.
Right. I think he's talking about being aware of all these monsters that live around us all the time.
Yeah, but he only felt that it was going to happen, but it never did. It doesn't say that he will get the same thing that the doctor had.
Oh no, yeah, they don't end up in the same way, that's for sure. But I think that was the same in the film. I don't remember. I think he just got killed in the film, but um,
Yeah, but the thing is that he got, I mean, the first exposure of the machine gave him the pineal gland like in a different shape, I think. And that's why I remember that they were taking this exam.
Right.
remember? And they were checking it, and and the psychiatrist was like, "Oh my god, this is it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why she decided to take him back to the house, because they needed to recreate all of this. And one of the things that he said, that he never I mean, he, well, this last line that he said, "What prevents me from believing the doctor is this one simple fact, that the police never found the bodies of those servants whom they say Crawford Tillinghast murdered."
Yeah. It does seem like flimsy evidence.
I mean, that, I think this will be like in the borderline of dementia.
To take that as evidence, you mean?
Yeah, because he is like, okay, maybe because of the I don't know, the way that you can communicate to people, because you can say, "Hey, I dismiss you," at that time, I guess. "I dismiss you," and then get off, and they will leave. You will never going to hear from them again, right? And at that time, I don't think it was like too, I mean, you know about the people, but you weren't doing like enough investigation. I don't know if you get my point. It's like he's saying that the police never found the bodies. Maybe they weren't dead. Maybe they just left. They were
Well,
scared.
that's. But they said that Crawford murdered them. Those
Yeah.
servants whom they say Crawford murdered.
No, no, no. He said,
No, in the
that
last
it
line
was
there.
taken, they was taken away. Let me search for where they, because he was saying that they were screaming so loud.
Oh, the main doctor, yeah,
Mhm.
Tillinghast. He said that they were screaming because, and at first he lied about why they were screaming, and that he wasn't there, and then he said, "No, I'm the reason why they were screaming because they looked." And he said disintegration is quite harmless, but um, yeah, yeah, like I did find that interesting that says that his reason for believing it is that they never found the bodies, and I suppose it would be hard for this guy to dispose of 3 bodies, but certainly not impossible.
Yeah, but, and then I will get back into the start of this short story, and how this guy that we don't know exactly the name, I think they were never mentioned the name of the
Yes,
person
I
that
think it's
is.
always first person. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He is telling how badly Tillinghast was. How would someone be able to kill, I think it was 3 servants?
Well, he says that when he came back, that he was all sickly like that, but when he left, he seemed fine. He said he was surprised that um, in only 6 weeks that could happen, or only 2 weeks or something. How long was he away from?
He,
10 weeks.
uh-huh. It's like 2 months and a half.
Yeah, 2.5 months. That's right. In fact, that's how it starts out. It says, "I had not seen him since that day, 2 months and a half before." Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, I wonder if there's any secret methodology there. No, that would be about 75 days, say 74, 75, something like that, 73. I don't think there's any secret in that number.
No, I don't think so. Well, it might be depending on what the short story is focused on. I mean, if it's focused, like the movie, that it's like the main thing was the schizophrenia.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe they have like certain periods of time that they will develop all of this.
I think for them, it's based on the moon. I think schizophrenics tend to be affected by the moon cycles for some reason. Yeah.
Well, maybe that moon cycle will be like maybe 2 months. I don't know. We'll
Well,
have to check all the moon cycles.
Yeah, well, each moon cycle is 1 month. That's about 1 month. It's what 28.25 days or something like that. Um, yeah. Well, I guess I was just looking to see if there was a secret there. I just got done reading Odysseus, like and that guy Homer fits so many secrets in there. Like all of the names mean stuff, and all of the numbers mean stuff. So I was just curious if the 2.5 months was really saying anything.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
because
like before, if he killed him near the beginning of those 2.5 months, then I could see him having the strength to carry their bodies off and dispose of them. Like maybe there's a body of water nearby or something, and and then I could imagine the stress of having killed people really debilitating a person like this.
hmm.
Not saying that that's the way we're supposed to read the story, but I'm just saying it's interesting in this horror aspect that you never really know what's quite true. So if you're the sort of person that believes in ghosts and things like that, then you could be like, "Oh no, it's that." But if you're really skeptical, you could be like, "Oh no, it's that."
No, 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 no. It's not even about the ghosts. The thing is that the way that he was telling about the story made me feel that he was trying to make it more familiar. So I don't feel that he was trying to hurt the servants. He was trying to actually bring a point, but he didn't want it to harm the servants. If you get my point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he seemed very evil and nefarious in the story. You don't think he wanted to hurt the servants? I just assumed he wanted to hurt the servants if it didn't say that
It's because
specifically.
for me in the short story and the movie, they're like two different people. I mean, two different doctors. In the short story, it's portrayed as someone that it's too what's this called? It's too passionate about something. And it's so passionate that everything that surrounds him changes.
Yeah, but there is a hate in it as well. Like when he's saying that your little brain can't picture,
No,
like,
but
and he's talking
no,
about
no,
how
no.
great he
The he,
is.
no, but the hate, the hatred. It's because that best friend never believed him, and he was
Uh,
even trying to be
sure.
benevolent. He was even trying to be benevolent because he was saying, like in his schizophrenical thought, like I am telling you to keep yourself still. It's like he is implying, or at least for me, he's implying is like if I really wanted to kill you, I wouldn't tell you this. Like I will have told you, turn on the lights, move around, but I'm telling you so you can be saved. Because even though that you are like turning your back on me, on all of the things that I have investigated, and now I'm showing it to you, because it's like you are my best friend, and that's why I'm bringing you here, and that's why I got you, right? And I'm like, I'm trying to make you see that you were wrong by not believing me.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, I totally didn't read it that way, but like if I were to reread it, I could read it that way too. Just like
I mean, maybe I wasn't
as
reading it
more.
that that good. I'm so sorry.
No, no, I'm saying you can take these exact words and I think you can read them in a totally different way. Like I made it really nefarious when I was reading it. But you could be like, you think those floundering things wiped out the servants? Fool, they're harmless. But the servants are gone, aren't they? You tried to stop me. You discouraged me when I needed every drop of encouragement I could get. You were afraid of the cosmic truth, you damned coward. But now I've got you. What swept up the servants? What made them scream so loud? Don't know, eh? You'll know soon enough. Look at me. Listen. Yeah, yeah. Like you could read this totally differently. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't feel that he was trying to be evil. He was passionate, but he was overly passionate. And
Okay, yeah.
that's what I felt, because he my my main resource here is because he was using pets. You know, pets are really close to you.
Well,
You
I that's what I took it to mean, is that these devil things were his pets. He had become demonic, right? That he was so close to these horrible things.
hmm but that's the thing. I mean, for me, I'm trying to understand that he is lowering this demonic presence into something that it's more familiar for us, right? So you're not seeing them as devils or demonic creatures. They're pets, like
Okay,
a
yeah.
dog, like a cat. They can be pet.
That's a really interesting. Yeah,
They are. I think he's putting it in a minor perspective.
I think you could read it both ways. Like when I read it, I was definitely reading it as like a sadistic guy. But yeah, you could. He's just crazed and passionate. You could also read it that way. That is interesting.
Yeah, so that's what I felt. That's what I felt when he was trying to talk about the pets. And he's saying, my pets are not pretty, but they come out of places where aesthetic standards are very different. So he's saying, yeah, they're different, but they are pets. So you love pets. When you think about pets, you think about something lovable, like adorable.
But yeah,
Like,
but you take it as like he's sort of embracing these things and bringing them up. But the way that I took it was just associating him with them, which lowers him. You know, it
it,
yeah.
it
Like I think you can read it your way.
mhm.
I found that really
I,
interesting. I didn't take it that way at the first reading at all. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's why I'm feeling two different stories. I think the movie is focused on the way that you say it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like trying to portray the doctor as the bad guy, and he's the one that it's crazy. That I mean, he is definitely passionate on what he's doing, but he's the bad guy in the movie. He's the bad guy, but for me here, he's not the bad guy. I think he's like he's not he's not being well understand.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I'm really glad I read this with you. I would never have caught that. I think you totally can read it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
That there's no nefarious sort of sadism in it at all. That he's just really excited about what he's showing him.
yeah, maybe he's like, as I said, maybe he's too overly passionate about it,
Hmm.
and that's why he just got into the borderline schizophrenic attitude or disorder, and that's why I still I think I will have to reread it again to just make my thoughts clear on one of all of these psychological philosophical words in it, just to make sure that I'm not losing anything.
Sure. Well, the way that the first person, like the narrator, is describing it, is everything is quite horrible. But I'm kind of reminded of that quote: "Animals never had a war. Who's the real animals?" In that, like this guy, like I never read it this way, but this guy, there might not be anything wrong with him. You know, it might be that we're just really judgmental of this other realm, and that
Exactly.
aesthetics are just different there. And he's really excited to share it. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's something that we haven't even talked about, to be honest. That's something that we haven't even like got into, which is all of this investigation supposedly about this. Let me get the information because I read it and it was pretty interesting. He was talking about like a parallel something, like it was something that was like a mirror. I don't remember in which part where I remember reading that. That's why I said that I have to like reread it and get my thoughts. And I think that the next short story it will be the best for us to read it first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just to like,
I've never done a live read like that. I enjoyed it, but yeah,
and
definitely
it's good
stumbled in
because
a couple places.
yeah, but it's good because we don't have something in our minds before
Hmm.
we start reading this, so we are starting to get all of this let's say, stories in our minds just to get it out, right? So it's not something that we already made a research. So it doesn't sound like we are just telling the news. It's something that it's coming from what we are telling
Yeah, yeah.
people here. So there was something as I said, I need to like reread it and get certain points. But do you remember specifically what am I talking about?
You mentioned a mirror. I
Mm.
don't. He doesn't have the word mirror, I don't think.
Well,
But
it wasn't the mirror, but it was like it just made me think about like a parallel universe.
well, just talking about we didn't have these senses to detect these things all around us, and that also interacting with this machine seems to give these other things an awareness that we're here as well.
Yeah, but he mentioned something like another dimension or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but
What do we know? He said of the world and the universe around us.
you see, we shall overleap time, space, and dimensions, and without bodily motion peer to the bottom of creation. How ahead of time he is by telling this phrase.
Well, actually, when this came out, this would have been after Einstein released his papers on general relativity and special relativity, I think. And that would have been the talk of the scientific world. And this website that we're getting for this from, I saw there was a science category and it said that he loved science. So he actually probably did read about that. And this is totally getting off into another direction. But
But are you sure? Because okay, it was like around when this was written.
uh,
Mm.
it
Oh,
was
Spanish.
1934. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So and
Because he died in 1934, but he
oh,
didn't wrote this in
okay.
1934.
We had it.
Oh, I'm sorry. He
It was
died in 1937.
it was first published in Fantasy Fan in June 1934.
I wonder what
And
he wrote.
special relativity is the second one for Einstein. So special relativity was 1905. Yeah. So this, yeah, he would have been aware of Einstein's claims, and I would. This is a whole nother bag can of worms to open, but I don't think that that's insightful at all. I think that it comes from verificationism, which is an idea that you should only believe things that you verify, and that leads to very absurd scientific models, which generally in philosophy are called scientific anti-realism, which is that scientific models don't actually describe reality, or reality is just descriptions. Um, and both of those things lead to really absurd conclusions. And so this thing that people have been saying for about 80 years, that it's really thoughtful, that there's no such thing as time, it's just another dimension, it's really foolish. It's really dumb. It just comes from a certain way of looking at the math, and it's not philosophically coherent.
Yeah, but maybe he was getting from that specific.
Yeah, I think so. I think he was inspired by that. Yeah, but I'm just saying it's kind of a shame because it's stupid.
Because now I think the scientists are just checking on that we have different dimensions, and we have, and our world, our universe is just like a fragile piece of paper. And that's what they said. It's like a resemblance or
Again, it's that scientific modeling that I was talking about, in
Mhm.
that they're
But
coming up with descriptions for things. They're not actually saying those things exist.
yeah, but the thing is that those things were just said at this time.
Right. Yeah. There's different schools, and
I don't
like
think it was being said at that time, you know.
oh no, this has been really popular. It's the mythologization of quantum physics. It's been around for about 100 years. Yeah. Um, and there are definitely a lot of popular people, especially in like scientific what do you call it when they're popularizing science,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they will promote this idea that, you know, quantum physics breaks all these ideas of logic, and there's really no such thing as time, and we've disproven the need for a beginning of the universe and things like that. This really is nonsense. A lot of physicists disagree with it, and any philosophically informed person, I really think, that takes a serious look at this will realize if you're going to adopt this, you're essentially saying you don't have experience. For one thing, if there was no progression of time or no privileged perspective, then you would not have you would not be building a series. You would just be like a slice of existence. You wouldn't be reasoning. It doesn't make sense to describe it as reasoning. That's any more than to say that page 200 comes after page 1. It doesn't matter if you flip the book around; it's not coming in. That's just a way of describing it.
Okay.
Yeah. You're getting me on that thing that I rant about, but
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah. Well, the thing is that what Einstein was describing in a lot of ways was very useful, but because of assumptions that he brought into it that were really silly assumptions, especially for the public, it's really set back the public's understanding of science and education. I would say that it's probably knocked people back about 50, 80 years. Like, it's impossible to say exactly, but there is such a fundamental misunderstanding of what science is nowadays. And so this is something I get animated about.
No, it's fine. It's fine. The thing is that it depends on how do you get that information, right? It's not exactly that it's what you think and what I think. I mean, it's something that has been done like what, as you said, 100 years ago, and everything is math. You cannot say that it's something that it's reading and just like, oh, I just think that it's this and that. There
No,
is a
in a lot of ways
mathematical
it is that
function
way.
out of it.
In a lot of ways it is that way because it has to do with assumptions that you take onto the math. So for instance, okay, imagine that you add 1, so you have number 1, okay, and you add
Mm-hmm.
half of that. What's half of 1?
Have like 0.5.
That's right. And so if you add those together, you get 1.5. And then if you add half of 1/2, what is that?
0.25.
That's
I
right.
think.
And so you add those together, you get 1.75,
0.75.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you keep on going and you keep on going and you keep on going. If you had an equation that described that process, what would the answer be?
You will definitely try to get as closer as 2.
Exactly. Now,
You will be like
the thing that
one
you're
point nine
saying
nine nine
there,
nine nine.
exactly. Now, the thing that you're saying makes a lot of sense, and most people that aren't mathematicians will answer that way because you understand that no matter how close you get to it, because you're having it every time, you're never going to close that distance, right? But in
Mm-hmm.
mathematics, they take mathematical equations to be instantaneous. And so when you're dealing with extremely complex numbers, like really high numbers, they assume them to be infinite. So and extremely low numbers, you assume them to be 0. And that's really great because these numbers are too small or too large to really deal with. And so in the way that you just made an assumption, you're like 1999999. You're saying I'm not going to bother keeping on saying 9 because it's impossible. I can't describe what the actual number is, but you get what I'm trying to say. And they
Yeah.
just go a step forward and say, listen, that's really close to infinity. And so a mathematician will tell you that the answer to that equation is 2. It's not really close to 2. It is 2. Okay. Now that is true if you come to that equation with certain philosophical assumptions. And so I'm more inclined to agree with you.
But you will have to twist the answer. You will have to add that 0.011111 or 0.00000 and endlessly zeros until you get the 1 in the end. So you will sum it up to get that 2, right?
That's the thing, is they round it up. That's right. And infinitely small numbers they round, and infinitely large numbers they round. But what I'm using that example to tell you that your answer to that equation, what the numbers would be, has to do with your philosophical assumptions that you bring to mathematics. And so it's not just a matter of math. So I would agree with you, but mathematicians are trained that the answer is 2. And they're not really wrong, as long as they understand that that's a mathematical convention for dealing with numbers that are too large or too small to deal with. But the thing is, most people aren't trained that way. And especially when people come into the public and popularize science and mathematics, they tend not to explain those things to people because they really like the wow factor. Somebody that's really, really bad for this is a guy called Lawrence Krauss. I hear that he's done great work in his field, but in terms of popularization for what he teaches, he basically lies to people to get them excited and think that he's a wizard. It's really embarrassing.
Okay. Who is this guy?
Lawrence Krauss. He's a physicist. World famous physicist.
Lauren
Krauss, yeah, with a K. Krauss.
Oh, okay.
If you want an example of what I'm talking about, look at his interview with The Atlantic that he did like maybe 10 years ago or something. And I think it's called, it's The Atlantic, Did the Universe Have a Beginning, I think? Or Did the Universe Start from Nothing or something? He's promoting his book. And in that short interview, which is really not any longer than the short story we just read, he contradicts himself about 3 times in defining what he's talking about and what he's teaching people to believe. And the question is, what is nothing? And can the universe come from nothing? And because he switches back between definitions, he specifically says, I'm not claiming that. He claims it. And he says, I'm talking about this other thing.
Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I'm not getting the name right, but I'll have to try to search for it. I'm getting another thing. I was just trying to search for that.
Well, The Fall of Celebrity Scientist Lawrence Krauss is the newest one.
But it's written like this, like Lauren. I think I'm going to write it down. Lauren.
It's like law, Lawrence. Okay. I guess he's had a few stories in The Atlantic. Maybe I'll have to be more specific.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yep. So the article that I'm talking about is, Has Physics Made Philosophy and Religion Obsolete? And I would really encourage anybody to read that with a careful and skeptical eye, and specifically pay attention to 2 questions. Can the universe begin from nothing? And what does Lawrence Krauss mean by nothing? And see him contradict himself in that short interview. And he uses 2 different definitions of nothing.
Okay.
This is really not to do with H.P. Lovecraft's work.
Well, this could be an interesting topic to get ourselves into. Do you think this will be like copy striked?
No, you want to review the article? Is that what you're talking about?
Is this an article, or is this like an interview?
Yeah, it's an article that is an interview. So it's a transcribed interview that they have.
Because it will be nice to listen to it and to read it and to see.
I think it's just in written format.
Okay. Maybe we can just read it.
I put it in the chat there.
But we have to. Okay. The thing is that we have to like see it with how can I say this, and not trying to be that passionate, and trying to just analyze it with a really specific perspective, because we don't want to hurt anyone's beliefs.
I'm not sure I am capable of doing that. It's kind of like if I was reading a story about a police officer that was using his position to break the law. It gets me very upset.
Well, well, that's something to be really upset about.
I think this is something to be really upset about. People nowadays, a lot of people don't understand how science works, and they think of scientists like priests. So if scientists agree about something, they think they should believe that, or they're not wise.
Of course, of course,
But
but
that's not a good thing to believe.
exactly. But we need to like focus on people not knowing what science is, so they are ignorant. So we cannot go onto them because they are ignorant. They
No,
don't know.
but we can go on to this guy because he's quite obviously trying to mislead people.
Of course, but maybe we can get certain assumptions to take them down to earth and understand why he's telling things or why he wants to tell things like that. And just
I,
having our own opinions.
I think he's pretty anti-religion, especially Christianity and Islam and Judaism. I think he's been pretty open about that.
And that's something interesting because every single scientist, or at least most of them, that are so passionate about pursuing to explain how the universe was created or were created, I'm sorry, um, they don't believe in God, or they don't believe in Christianity or religion.
I think there are actually a lot of people involved in cosmogony, I think it's called, which is the beginning of the universe, that are Christians and Jews for sure. Islam is underrepresented generally in academia, but especially Catholics have been involved in this for a long time. Yeah, like I would say that a lot of science popularists, like even some of the people that are really great to listen to, like what was that guy? He's not been around for a lot of years, but he had a very special voice. He's like billions and billions of years ago. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
Carl Sagan. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of really popular people like that, and like I really liked Carl Sagan, but a lot of people that popularize science are very unaware of philosophy and religion, and so they end up saying some really silly things.
Exactly. It's because they're trying to make a point on the scientific or scientist perspective, I guess. Right. So that's why they're saying there is a thin line in between science and religion, a really thin line.
Well, I think that a lot of these people do tend to use their expertise in science to promote themselves as experts in other fields. And like, for instance, Stephen Hawking and his attacks against philosophy are really, really embarrassing. Like, again, Stephen Hawking, brilliant physicist, but his philosophy was very, very poor to the point where he wasn't aware of the advances in philosophy in the last few hundred years.
I wonder why, because this is repeating in every single math or every single scientist. Like the ones that are like really into it, they tend
There are some that cross these fields. Like I think that there's a physicist named Morrison, I think is his name, and
okay.
he's really got philosophy figured out fairly well. And yeah, some people, some scientists, and some philosophers do a really good job of meshing it. But sometimes some of the most vociferous and popular people, they really have no clue. Like for instance, Richard Dawkins. It's really embarrassing to hear to the point where people are like openly laughing at him that support him when he says certain things about religion and philosophy.
Okay.
And it's really sad because I'm sure he's a great biologist, but when he's saying, like, there's this one line that he says, "Nothing isn't nothing anymore," and then everybody starts laughing at him, and he's like, "Why is that funny?" He doesn't understand why that's funny, because being trained in how to do certain things in science is not the same as being trained in what that is actually telling you. And so you'll meet a lot of people that have degrees in mathematics, and they'll say, no, the answer is 2. And they'll call you foolish for not realizing the answer is 2. And they won't be able to think about it like you did.
Yeah, but it's because of the logical. I mean, I am a pretty logical person. But if I am going to be a machine and I'm going to only say there is a 1 and there is a 0 because that's the binary code, then my answers are going to be narrowed just into those two specific answers.
Right. But I've
Right?
talked to, but it's one thing to say this is an assumption in the system. And so according to the system, this is the answer. But I understand that logically speaking, this other thing would be true if you didn't have this assumption in the system. That's one thing. That's a very wide understanding of what's going on. But I have spoken to people with PhDs and talked to them about this, and they do not understand that the answer is not 2 in reality.
Yeah, it's because, as you're saying, they are assuming that
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the answer.
They
But
know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, I talked to one guy and he said, "You know what, Nicholas? I didn't believe it either that you could add up zeros until you got a number. But when my professor showed me in a lab, I was amazed, and now I know you can do it."
uh, scientists and maths are just like they're two different main topics, but when they get together, just like now, it just makes me feel that I should have been studying that. You know, I mean, the assumption of what you said is like trying to make it look like, or trying to make it seem of what I want it to be. I want it to be 2.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
don't want it to be 1.9999999
Yeah.
because I cannot explain it
Yeah, I think
away.
that is part of it, but I think a large part of it is also that when you get really highly educated and you have experience teaching other people in what you're educated in, you become very closed. Like we've talked before about how children are more open to things, and I think people become more crystallized as they get older, and so they wouldn't even be aware of certain things that they're experiencing. I think this same thing is especially true for academics, in that you speak to so many well-respected people and you agree with everyone, and then all of a sudden some fool comes up to you and says, and they don't even have a bachelor's degree in the field, and they say, no, that's wrong, this is why. And you're just like, no, I know this is the right answer, I'm educated in this. Like, you can listen to me, I'm a professor, or you can walk away, you know. And they don't realize that they're just walking away from the answer.
Yeah, but that's, and that will be something to talk about widely. I mean, just like what we read, right? You have a way to understand it, and I had another way to understand it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe they are understanding it in a different way, but the thing is that they don't know how to explain it to making us believe that it's true. It's just like when we are discussing about politics. If you are from the left wing and I'm from the right wing, I'm never going to change your opinion about me or the right wing, and vice versa.
I really understand what you're saying, but I'm trying to tell you that I think that the superior position is to not just have an opinion, but also understand your opponent's opinion. So, for instance, when you pointed out your reading on H.P. Lovecraft, I didn't say,
Mhm.
no, it's not like that. I was really impressed, and I felt like you taught me more about this story because you showed me it can definitely be read that way. And I feel like when I'm speaking to highly educated people about a lot of topics like this, like I could give you an example from philosophy if you're interested in,
Mhm.
where they don't understand my position. I understand their position, but I think that I also have a reason why they're wrong, but they don't even understand my position. Like, would you like to hear an example from philosophy?
No, I think if we
Okay.
start doing that, we are going to get until more than midnight.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Sure.
see, we are almost at 2 hours. Remember that we were talking
That's
about.
right. Well, we got sidetracked. Yeah. Yeah. If we had stuck with HP, then that would have been.
Yeah, but we were going through that. I mean, we were going into it because we weren't investigating something. And that's the whole thing. That's the good thing about reading something that you haven't even investigated first, and then you start getting curious. But
Sure. Yeah.
you are not getting curious by investigating it with Google and other tools. You're just investigating it because what you feel or how you know things are, you know. And that's why we are talking about it without, we are searching certain things, but we are not searching everything. Rather than what's going to happen maybe in the reanimator, we may have certain things like specific topics that we may want to talk about, and we have investigating in, which is fine, which is fine. But it won't be as, I mean, it will be fluid, but it won't be as natural as this is.
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely getting a
Ending,
really fresh
exactly,
response to it this time.
that we're ending by talking about scientists and mathematical positions.
You know, I assumed Reanimator was one of his stories, but
It wasn't. I thought it was.
I'm not seeing it here. Maybe let me double check. H.
Maybe we just get involved because of they were the same actors.
Yeah, it was definitely the same company. Oh no, wait, Herbert West, Reanimator. Okay, so it's just got a longer title, I guess. No, it is an H.P. Lovecraft one. My mistake.
Okay.
It's called Herbert West Reanimator. Is it in this list here? Yeah, Herbert West Reanimator. Yep.
Okay, so we will have to make sure that we have like the same schedule, but this time we will be reading it and we will be writing things down or highlight them, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
Yeah. So just to clarify, we're going to read it ahead of time, and then we'll do a
Exactly.
reading for the video, probably, right? But we'll have already read it and done some research. Sure, sounds good.
Yeah, and it will be the same thing that what happened with From Beyond. We already watched the movie, and we are trying to check what happened in the short story and how to compare it with the movie. What at what time was this movie?
1985.
No, but that's the movie. I
Oh,
mean the short story.
oh, that was 1921, 1922. So it was actually way earlier,
Wait,
published way earlier than this one that we just read.
okay, that's interesting.
It's also interesting. I didn't realize that the company had made Reanimator, and then I guess the next year they made From Beyond. So we watched them in the opposite order.
Okay, I wonder if that changed something. I
I
will
don't.
think about it.
I don't think they're related. Yeah, like
No,
I
there
sure
is
do like that
some.
main character though.
I mean, there are certain things that might be resemblance, like it has something to do one with one another.
Well, I think he's, any writer's gonna sort of fall into certain recurring themes. I think. I think
Yeah,
he's really interested in those, like opening dimensions and portals, and this sort of occultism idea. I think of this hidden truth.
yeah, and it makes sense because then I'm going to get ahead. So, because I haven't read the short story, but I remember the movie. So, the reanimator, you know that you can control that body that it's been deceased, but you can have some sort of logic and having the person back on how he was in this case, but it depends on when they died. Maybe I'm just
Yeah,
getting ahead of time, but I wanted to like make a resemblance because supposedly the reanimator was before. So I think it's like a catharsis, that will be the word, to the From Beyond movie, because it's like everything it's been I don't know, worked on or understood or investigated. So now we have the better being. So this is like we are moving from, you know, killing, I mean, uh, investigating on dead bodies and trying to reanimate them just to feel that you are God. Because this is like, you feel like a God. And I think we will find those resources in both shows, short stories.
That sort of mania.
Because in this one, I mean, in the short story that we read, it says that it was like a god feeling that he controlled or he knew about what was going on. And then in the reanimator, I think in the movie, this guy that was investigating, he felt that he was also being in that certain position of controlling a dead body to walk again and to be alive. I don't know if you get my point. I think I'm just like rambling and
Well, do you
ranting
mean
about it.
Herbert West, the sort of guy that brought the reanimator solution with him, or did you mean the guy that was the plagiarist?
No, I mean, the whole point that I have is trying to compare the sequels.
Yeah,
Well,
but the
not the
point you
sequels,
just made, the point that you just made, which character was it about?
was I think it was the Wesker guy, the one that
Okay,
was
Herbert
investigated,
West. Okay,
the one
so
that was investigated.
so he was the guy that had come and he rented the basement and everything, right?
Exactly. So
Okay, yeah.
he was the one feeling that he was a god because he thought that he had everything controlled and he was getting people out of the dead by reanimating them. And now on From Beyond, which is the second movie, let's say it goes after this one. I mean, talking about the short stories.
I guess
Because
I just saw him more as a sort of a Frankenstein character that was not really he was excited that he was going to be famous for what he was doing, but it didn't seem like he was really even particularly interested with what he was creating. He just seemed really excited that he had uh, broken all of these scientific assumptions.
exactly. But the thing is that he made the mistake on that first part, and then on the second part, he made it perfect, which was From Beyond. And that perfect was the schizophrenia.
Okay, so you're thinking that the this main character here was Herbert West. That from the story we just read. Is that how you're trying to connect them?
Not exactly the character, but the stages.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel that the reanimator was like the first stage of his insanity. And I'm talking about the writer.
Oh, okay.
Right? So he is telling the story about what he felt and how he was building all of these worlds or all of these things that he had in mind. And with the From Beyond, he just portrayed it. It's like, okay, I have now the final product. This is
Okay.
it.
That's a possibility. I, as a writer myself, I really shy away from interpreting someone's writing as a commentary on what they're trying to say at all. Because I certainly write a lot of characters that say things and do things that I wouldn't support. And I would hate for someone to read one of my stories and then say, "This is what Nicholas is trying to say."
Well, I'm not assuming because that's why I'm saying maybe I'm ranting because I haven't read the short story. What I wanted to know is if this is like a sequel or this is like a stage of someone telling something. You know, it's like
Okay,
what you
yeah.
said about the secrets about the numbers,
Right, right, yep.
right? So
Well,
this might be something that he wanted to tell. That it's there.
yeah, well, it will be interesting. I'll keep my eyes open for that. And if you have any points to make about how you think that that's supported from the writing, I'd be interested to hear them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and read that. I mean, I'm going to try and read it by not being in a certain position. because else I'm going to try and make my point valid. So I'm going to try and make myself as impartial as possible.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Sounds good.
But that's like a really good reason, like just to see how this short story was created. I mean, was written, and how it connects to the other one, because they're like similar in a certain point, in a certain aspect.
Yeah, I haven't ever researched Lovecraft, so I don't know what he's trying to do, or what overarching, or if there's some sort of biographical notes on that.
Hmm.
I just assumed he was writing, like a lot of people have a genre that they just like,
I
or
mean,
they're
I
good
was
at.
just reading just now a little bit about his story, and why it seems like he was writing these kind of novels. But it seems like he was the only son, and his mom was really possessive, and she
Oh,
she was like trying to take care of him too much, so she created like a bubble around him.
that's a horror
So
story in itself.
yeah, so maybe that's why he developed all of this like safe world. It's like outside is the unsafe world, and here is safe because my mom is saving me
Mm.
from anything. And
Mm.
that's why I was just like, while I was like having the biography just now, I was just like reading like a couple of things, and that's interesting. But that will be like too much, like going deep, like too much. So that's why I didn't want to like.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I wonder if there's some sort of a correlation between people that have paranoia or social phobia and that write or enjoy horror. That's interesting.
It might be. It might be. I mean, you will have to like try to investigate the principles. I mean, the ones that wrote horror short stories, and see if they have the same pattern.
I know Poe was a huge alcoholic, Edgar Allan Poe,
Mm-mm.
and I've spoken to some alcoholics online that I would like. I suppose I've spoken to a lot of alcoholics that I didn't know it, but something that I've noticed is a lot of people that believe in the flat Earth are
Oh,
alcoholics. I'm surprised at how many people that believe in the flat Earth are alcoholics, and they're extremely paranoid. And I think you'd have to be very, very paranoid to believe in the flat Earth because, uh,
wow.
yeah,
Like
I could
like
get into
this,
that.
like yeah. It's like this guy that died. I don't know if you heard about the story, that he died trying to prove that the Earth was flat.
Right. I think I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that he was trying to like build ah, what's this called? A spaceship to
Yeah.
go to
I seem to remember he had launched himself up with something. Yeah. And I think his parachute didn't open or something. I forget what it was exactly, but yeah.
yeah, and he died.
Yeah.
And he was doing like a TV show, I think, of that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. He was filming all of this, and I think they got into that last scene, but I don't know what happened. If they decided to like get it out or what happened, I don't know. But he was trying to prove that the Earth was flat, that the Earth is flat. But anyways,
Yeah, that's such a shame because you can know that the Earth isn't flat without even leaving your living room. Like there's ways that you can just think about it and figure that out.
yeah, but I don't know. As you say, there might be something else that we're not understanding, and we should listen to them first.
No, no.
Why?
Again, you're assuming that I haven't listened to them.
Well, I
I can tell
haven't.
you. Okay, well,
I haven't.
I have. I've spent many hours speaking to people that believe in the flat Earth. I could give you their arguments for you, like just so that you would know what their arguments would be, and I could
Hmm.
tell you why they're wrong, and I could tell you some very simple things that would just prove to you right now without you even going outside about the shape of the Earth, and it doesn't require any pictures from NASA or anything. It's just a couple simple points. In fact, I'll just outline the simplest point right now. Okay,
Hmm.
so if you think about the way that the maps are set up, right? They're set up according to this idea that the Earth is shaped a certain way, and so everything on that map has certain distances on it. And if you were to flatten that, then you would either have to split it so that you wouldn't have the Pacific Ocean together or the Atlantic Ocean or something like that, Or
Mm-hmm.
you'd have to split it so that like maybe the North Pole or the South Pole are on the outside. And for that to be true, then all of the distances on the map would change. So everyone that ever charts a course, so if you're sailing a ship or
Mm-hmm.
flying a plane or building a road, you would have to have this secret flat Earth map that shows you the real distances of things. Because if
Mm.
you didn't, you would get lost. You would go in the wrong directions. And if you think about all the people that have charted courses over hundreds of years, having to be involved in this and never letting this conspiracy slip, it's really beggars belief. And if you just look at the flat Earth maps that people will show you and say, hey, this is a map of the flat Earth and it's accurate, you can look at it and the points won't be equidistant. So it'll look like a flat Earth map, but
Mm-mm.
if you look at it, it'll be cut like a pizza, in that
Yeah.
the points in the middle will be really close together and the points on the outside will be really far apart. And that's just because it's distorted so that you can show it in that sort of a map. And so a person that says that sort of a map is accurate is admitting that the Earth is not flat.
Even in that, it's like, I'm shocked.
Yeah, yeah. I really know, I do listen to people. Like when somebody says something and I'm like, no, that's crazy, that's stupid. I think about it. I look it up. I try to figure it out. Like I don't just believe things because everybody believes them.
Oh, I don't have like anyone that will say that the Earth is flat. So that's why I'm just like shocked of
Oh,
what
okay. Yeah.
like I haven't even like had a chance to discuss it with someone. Like it's like too passionate to say it to me. So that's why I'm like, why would you change the map? I mean, because you wanted to make it sure that it fits on your belief.
No,
Like,
no, it's that when they're looking online and a lot of them pass around these maps and they look flat. Like I'll show you one if you want. I'll give you a link to one. Uh, uh, okay, here's a really popular one. I'll put it.
lol.
Yeah, so if you look at this map, it looks like the Earth is flat and that there is this great ice wall on the outside, which in this map would be the South Pole. And I've had people that are spokesmen and have YouTube channels and really promote the flat Earth show me this map and say this map was used in, I forget what war, some war, and it's accurate.
Okay, let me see if we are watching the same. Wait, copy image address. I am watching this one. Oh my god, this is like a lot. What? Wait.
Is it an image? It should just be an image.
Yeah, it's for me. It's like an image, like a circle one.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
in the center, you have, I think, it's the Antarctica or the Arctic Pole.
Yeah, the Arctic is in the center there, and then
And
Antarctica is around the outside.
yeah, it's like all around it.
Yeah, and so you see, so this is a map that I've had more than one flat earther show me and say, see, this is the way that the Earth is shaped, and this is an accurate map because it was used in, I forget, we could look it up, but it was used in at some time. Okay, and the thing is that this is sort of half true, and it might be convincing when you look at it at first glance and you say, oh, this looks like the Earth is flat, and you're saying that you know how the Earth is shaped. Oh, that's amazing. But if you look at the way that it's drawn, do you see how there's the pizza shapes?
Exactly.
Like and that the reason for that is because the points on the outside are exactly as close together in reality as the points on the inside. So what that means is all the points on the outside come to one singular point. And so that's why this map is distorted and it's sort of stretched in a weird way. And it looks like Antarctica is really big and all around. But what this map is actually showing is that the Earth could not be all round, because otherwise the points on the outside should be the same distance as the points on the inside, which if you look at the picture, it's just one point on the inside.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so this is something that I've had a couple flat earthers show me as evidence. And the thing that you do is the first thing you say is, okay, this is a map of the Earth. Yes. This is accurate. Yes. Do you know that this map does not show a flat Earth? Like, this is just a flat projection of a globe Earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I still try to figure it out how this will be a flat Earth.
Oh, it's just because it looks like that. It's a flat map. It looks like it's flat, and it's got the ice wall that they like talking about.
But every single map is a flat one. Hell, I'm
Pretty
sorry,
much,
but
yeah.
Like, if you watch, I mean, I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm just like being too narrow-minded. Maybe. I'm so sorry, but if we are going to like shut all of them, like, I would say that every single map that I'm watching at the moment are flat.
Yeah, well, we do have like 3D globe maps, right? We do have those. You have a globe in your classroom or something like that. But yeah, most maps are flat. But the thing is the way that this one's projected, it looks like it looks like what they like to describe. They really like believing that there's this ice wall on the outside, and that everything is in that. And then the sun and the moon are much smaller, much closer, and they sort of orbit around in a circle along the equator. And so for them, yeah, that's right. And they have all these sort of theories about how to figure out how far away the sun is, and they have this claim that the moon is hollow, like it's transparent, you can see through it.
What?
Yeah. I've looked into this.
I mean, that goes like far beyond my understanding of science.
Well, those things aren't true. That would be why it goes beyond your understanding of science.
Like, I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe they haven't got like into, I don't know, geography and astronomy. I'm sorry, astronomy, and to understand about the planets and why they have their distance. I'm sorry, and how big this systems are, and that's why
they often are as familiar as anybody else with those claims, but then they feel like they have certain things that are objections to that model, and they aren't good objections, but they seem very convincing if you're not familiar with certain things. Like, for instance, they'll talk about how far you can see over the horizon, and they'll say, I think it's every 8 miles it's supposed to drop 1 inch because of the curve of the Earth, the proposed curve of the Earth. And they say, look at this picture, you can see so much further than that. That's one of the things that they say. And one of the issues with that is that that will change day to day, and it changes because light is actually bent by the atmosphere.
exactly.
Like, when the sun gets close to the horizon, it looks a lot darker and a lot larger. That's because it's going through and being bent and refracted through a lot more atmosphere. And so that's called atmospheric refraction, and that can change depending on the weather. You've probably never been in a cold climate where you can see things like sundogs, but when the when the air gets really cold and you've got ice crystals and stuff like that in the air, you can get all kinds of amazing effects in the sky. And so the weather and the amount of moisture in the air actually changes what we see in the sky. But if you've never looked at that and you've never thought about it, then if somebody shows you that, hey, look, I can see much further around the Earth than I should be able to say, you see, oh, wow. Well, what's the explanation for that? And then they come up with other nonsense. Like, for instance, things don't disappear from the bottom first. And they have really silly examples for that. Like, if you
things don't disappear from the bottom first. Like,
yeah. So if you think about it, imagine a curve, right? Something going over a curve, and you can see it as it goes down the curve, like going over a waterfall or something. But the first part to disappear would be the bottom, right? Because the bottom would sort of slip by, and you maybe imagine somebody going over a waterfall, you see their head last, right?
Depends on the position that you're watching it.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see them falling over that waterfall and you're up above, then you're going to see their head go down last because they're they're tall enough that you can still see them a little bit as they start going over the waterfall, right?
Yeah.
And so they'll say every 8 miles, the curve drops 1 inch, and therefore you should not be able to see X object. And they've got plenty of examples. And so, they'll also say that it doesn't things don't disappear from the bottom first, like you would expect on a curve. And
Mm-hmm.
so what they say is that as things get further away, they just shrink. And there's a certain vanishing point. They love using that word, vanishing point, where something gets far enough away that it shrinks and you can't see it anymore. And this is not something that they can clearly define and say it's this amount of distance or something like that. But that's their explanation for why you can't see everything on Earth, is because it gets a certain distance away and then it shrinks and you can't see it anymore. And then they have really bad examples, like you go the distance of a football field or something like that and take a picture and you won't see the bottom part of the person disappearing. But of course you wouldn't expect to notice that because the amount of the curve of the Earth over a football field that's built to be flat
Yeah.
is very, very small, right? Yeah, so this takes a little bit of discussion, but if you've never thought, if you've never thought about this stuff, if I had come in with this evidence and said, things don't disappear from the bottom first, and you can see a lot further around the Earth than scientists claim you can, which is not true. But when you hear somebody say that, you start to think, oh, maybe there is something to this. And if you're a very paranoid person that doesn't trust people, then you could really buy into this idea that the government is convincing people that the Earth is round in order to, whatever reason, not believe in the Bible or something.
You will have to be like really paranoid to think
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Because I loved astronomy, and I loved to investigate about the planets and about the solar system and about all of that. And I was like really young. I haven't even investigated that in a very long time. And for all of the reasons that you have mentioned that these guys are mentioning, as I said, it blew my mind. Wow. Well, but that's like a really interesting topic. But I don't think I will be able to take those guys or those people that are talking about flat maps or having the Earth being flat to understand that it's not what it is. Because I think I will be just saying, hey, haven't you seen the NASA? Have you seen the pictures from the NASA?
Oh,
And they're going to say that is something that has been created and that was
exactly. Yeah.
and you will go like in circles with them.
Well, I would not appeal to NASA. If somebody is going to reject an authority like NASA, then I don't think that's a good way to convince them.
I mean, the only thing that you can convince them is by visuals. That's why the guy that wanted to prove that the air is flat wanted to create a spaceship.
Right.
Because he wanted to see it with his own eyes.
Right.
And he wanted to prove it.
You know what's funny about that is the person that I heard about that guy dying from was a flat earther. Mm-mm. And you know what he immediately said? He said, oh, well, he wouldn't have been able to tell anyway. He wasn't going to get high enough. So he was already discounting this guy's evidence before the guy had gotten the evidence.
You know what? I think they just wanted to believe in something and they just wanted to say, I believe it just because. And I don't want anyone to be saying that I'm wrong, even though I know that I might be wrong and I cannot sustain certain of the laws that my assumption of things are. But I just want
a really big thing in all kinds of belief systems where people are really excited to have special knowledge and special expertise and special wisdom, especially if it's a sort of hidden knowledge or something like that. Like this is how all the ancient cults used to work, the mystery cults, is they would bring you into their temple and they would show you these secret exercises and they would tell you the secret meaning of these things that everybody knew about. And that really sucks people in. It's hard to let go of that.
That's scary, to be honest. You can definitely try to manipulate the fragile minds with that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's scary. Okay. You see, we have gone the 2 hours mark. And I think if we got into deeper topics, we will get into maybe 6 a.m. in the morning.
Let's not do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was like a really interesting way to get all of this done. I think the live for me the live stream was really productive.
Excellent.
I really enjoy the short story. I have enjoyed the movie, by the way, and I think we got really good topics. I mean, really good like points from the short story.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm guessing that those topics will be also talked with this new short story that we're going to investigate as well.
Okay.
So let's try to figure it out. When are we going to do this? I mean, we're going to do again, um, just reading the short story and talk about it. What do you say?
Well, this works for me because you're an hour ahead of me, so it's not even midnight for me. This is about as late as I would want to do it. So if we
That
can
for
do it,
me, this will be like enough. Like the midnight will be enough because I know that my kid is going to wake up
yeah,
at
yeah,
the time, and I will have to like rush. He usually wakes up around 11, so it's been 1 hour past. So
excellent.
I'm lucky. I'm
Yeah,
lucky, but I don't think I'm going to get much luck after this. So I think it might be what
earlier
about?
is better for me if you want to do it earlier.
I mean, I wish, but I have to stay with my kid.
Okay.
he
Yep.
he sleeps with me. I mean, I'm sleeping like on my bed and he's sleeping on his bed, but he
Hmm.
needs to see me.
I
So and
understand.
he
Yep.
yeah, and he sleeps around 8:30 to 9:30. And today we just had like a blackout, and
Oh.
he couldn't have his rest. Like he sleeps like around 11 a.m. and he got really sweaty, and everything
Mm,
was like without air conditioner, and it was
right.
so freaking hot here. I think it was like 30 degrees Celsius, but it felt like 37 degrees Celsius
I
with
totally
all the
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
humidity. It was crazy. I had to turn on my car, and we got into the car with the air conditioner there. We couldn't stand
That's a
being
good
outside.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and I fed my child. I brought the soup inside my car to give him the food until the blackout was done. No, I'm honest. I
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
today. I have to do that today. But anyways,
You need an unfinished basement. You need an unfinished basement because they're always cool.
it might be, but in here it's way too humid. So I guess that it will get also there.
Oh, maybe.
So
Yeah.
so you will feel humid. It will be like underground. You will feel sticky. And it will be cool. So no, thank you.
All right.
No, thank you. So I think, do you think maybe, well, I will confirm, but it could be the same thing on Monday or Tuesday next week. So
Sounds good.
we do have like maybe 5 days to search for the short story, read it, get our points, compare it, and then bring it here to the live stream.
What do you mean by compare it?
I mean, compare it to our notes to what we talked. I mean, I will compare it with my notes because I have certain notes that I wrote here.
Okay. Okay.
So I will compare it with what I wrote about this short story that we read.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm glad that we did this. I hope that people that will be watching the live stream later, hopefully, will enjoy it as much as we did, and I hope that someone will be able to like maybe ask for something specific about the short story or about the short stories, or ask for other stuff that we may do here, like as a commentary. Do you want to add something?
Thanks so much for listening, guys. And I'm really happy to be here and support Pat's channel. And like she said, this is original content. So if you want anything, then help us out. Give us some ideas.
Look, Sephora is here. Hi, Sephora.
Hey.
She's She came like in the end,
Yeah, at the very end, we're just shutting
the
down.
very end. We're about to leave Sephora, but I think you should be like listening to the live stream. I mean, we well let me try to just to tell her what was going on. So
Can I
what we
just say really quickly, I'm not a flat earther. That link might make it look like I'm a flat earther. We were talking about flat earth, but I'm not a flat earther.
sure, sure, it's fine. No, but we were talking about is that we watched a movie that was quite old, let's say like maybe what 25, 30 years ago, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's getting more than that now. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yep, yep.
Yep. So we wanted to see if there was like something like on the back how it was created, how this movie was created. So there is a short story that was done first and then they did the movie, right? So the movie, it's called From Beyond, and there is a short story that is also called From Beyond, from, let me see,
H.P.
H.P.
Lovecraft.
Lovecraft. So we decided to first we watched the movie and then later on we just read the short story, and then we decided to do a commentary and try to compare it with the movie and the short story, which I think it was a really productive 2.5 hours. And we have gone through from talking about dimensions and scientist math assumptions, um, stories about flat earth and other interesting topics. And we are planning on doing something extra, like we're trying to do this maybe weekly. I don't know if we're going to do that, but at least for these two movies that we have already watched that has a short story, we plan on doing a commentary.
Yeah, and something tells me that Sephora is going to be an H.P. Lovecraft fan. I just have that feeling about her.
Maybe, we don't know. But the thing is that the important thing is that we should try to maybe investigate a little bit more about this writer and see if we can try to go deeper into certain other tales or short stories that he had.
Yeah, I think like if you're wanting to do this more regularly, I think if we developed a theme like that, you'd probably find an audience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something like at least new for us. So we are just trying to investigate how to do it and what will be ahead of us. Like, what should we doing next? I guess. I don't know what to do next after we finished Reanimator, but I think we can discuss it later on.
For sure.
Mm-mm. But that's how it is. I think Sephora is not. I don't know if she's still here or not, but we were about to leave because it is really late for us. Well, at least for me, it's passing midnight, and tomorrow I'll still have to work. Maybe not physically, but I mean not in the building that I work in, but here at home. So I have to wake up early.
I hope your channel takes off so you can have all the free time at home you want.
I wish, and I wish the same thing to you, but I think we are not the type of channels that we will just get all of the attention at first. And I think it's fine, because I really don't want to have all of these people coming in and just being nasty. I have seen so many nasty YouTube channels, like having all of these people like coming towards them because they said something wrong.
Well, if you're worried about that, I would say get off the internet right now because that's inevitable.
No, no, no.
The more people that know who you are, the more people are going to hate you. There's a certain
It's not,
percentage of people that are always going to hate you.
yeah, but it's not about hatred. It's not about hatred. It's about how you built your channel, right? Because if you build it with something that it's positive, you will always have hatred, but you know that there will be more people that will go with you
Oh yeah,
throughout
yeah,
the way because they want to listen to you. They
for sure.
understand where you're coming from. And maybe there are people that are going to say, hey, I don't effing care about what you effing position is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still have dislikes in my videos.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, I do have dislikes in my videos. I do understand that there are people that won't like what I'm doing, or the editing, or maybe the way that I'm pronouncing things. It might be. I cannot, as you said, I cannot tell people not to hate me or to hate the things that I'm doing, but it's not that I care about it, but I don't want all of my main audience to hate me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right? I want to build up like a trust zone to have people to believe in what I said. That's what I want. So
Yeah.
that's why
No,
I
no,
don't.
I'm just saying that there will always be people that hate you. Hate is gonna hate, but yeah, definitely. Usually, most people will be loving, yeah, and supportive.
And mostly all of the channels that are like popular will have lots of hatred,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they are so popular.
Oh, you're talking. I think you're thinking about like drama channels and stuff. Like you're
Not
posting about.
exactly, not exactly drama channels. It's about people that loves drama or
Okay.
loves to like. For instance, I don't know if you have heard about Trisha Paytas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I've heard about her commenting on a few things. Yeah.
For instance, the last topic that she brought about having like a DID, I think
Oh,
it's called,
okay.
right?
Identity disorder.
Exactly.
Dissociative identity disorder. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So she's now bringing that she had it already, and she filmed it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a psychologist that I sometimes watch his videos. I forget what his name is, Doctor something something. But he commented on her, and I had never heard of her before. And he commented on her performance. Yeah.
Exactly. So she's performing to people, and she
Hmm.
knows that hatred will bring her channel up again because
Yeah,
hatred.
I don't know her. Like I've not followed her, so I did watch portions of those videos, but I don't know how because people that have trouble with reality or maybe some sort of mental illnesses, uh, they it's really hard to tell the difference between that and acting. Um, and she really could believe these things about her, and she doesn't fit the typical descriptors of having multiple personalities, but uh, she could be experiencing something. And a lot of times, people that are really struggling with something, they're not good at describing what they're going through, and they will describe it in terms of a lot of times pseudo academic terms. So they'll hear a term and they'll say, "Oh, that really describes me." And they'll describe themselves in that way. And so you might be right in that she's making this up and she knows people are going to hate her, but she might also be trying to talk about how she survives. In that, you
I
know,
mean,
we do sort of go ahead, go ahead.
I will believe and I will say that you are absolutely right. But the thing is that there was an interview to the person that she was actually attacking in the first video that she did about the DID, that they did like, I think it was more than 5 million views. I don't remember exactly the channel that the interview, but they were talking about the DID, and it was brought into this, like they got like a lot of attention at that moment. And Trisha is being known by getting all of this drama first and trying to like get it out so people will start talking about it. So it was coincidentally like at that same time that she said that she had DID. So
Okay, yeah, yeah. It sounds like
I,
you're putting together a case. Sure. Yep.
yeah, so and she, that's the thing, that she started talking about that. And then I think it was the same guy that did the interview that said that she was just being crazy about all of this because she didn't have like any proof that she had DID. She was because she said that she was self-diagnosing that.
Right. And that's the thing is that sort of makes me think that she's not really like You could be totally right, and it sounds like you know a lot more about this woman than I do. I've just seen a few clips of her,
Mm-hmm.
but I could see someone struggling with something, like like we
She
all sort of have.
definitely, she definitely is struggling.
Yeah, and we all sort of have different roles that we play with different people. You know, if you're
Yeah.
speaking to a police officer or something like that, you're probably going to take a different tone than you take with your son. And I think that someone could, I'm not saying this is true of Trisha, but someone could take that to the extreme and say, okay, I'm actually becoming a different person here. And I don't know that that's necessarily dishonest or going after views. And it sounds like with this particular woman, you've looked into it and you have a lot of reasons to believe that's true with her. But I could also see a situation with somebody that really does think in their own head about things in this way. And if they're a drama channel and they get a lot of views about talking about a topic, they might talk about it a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I know about her because every single thing that she can exploit, she have done it. She said that I remember that she posted a video. I haven't seen her videos. I've only heard about the main subjects of the videos. It's like she said that she was feeling like she was a chicken nugget. Yes, yes, just like that. And she also talked about being a transgender,
Right.
but in a woman to be a gay guy because she felt that she liked the gay guy, so she felt that she was a transgender being a girl to a gay guy because she loves gays. I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm
and I
correct with
understand that a lot of
it.
people are really offended by that, but I've spoken to a lot of people that tell me that they're transgendered or otherly gendered or things like that, and
Hmm.
I would say that it is not well defined, and that people will say a lot of things that to me sound like nonsense, but uh, they are describing or trying to describe what they're feeling, and so I think you've put together a case for this woman, and you know better with this woman than I do. But I've spoken to people that have said things like, "I'm a woman because I prefer things like secretarial work," and for me, that's just sexist. That's just assuming that women like secretarial work, and therefore liking secretarial work, you're a woman. But that's not. They're not trying to be sexist. They're saying, listen, the way I think about myself is a woman, and a woman is someone that prefers things like secretarial work.
Yeah.
And it's gymnastics for me to get through, and it sounds like nonsense. But I'll say that I understand a lot of people are offended by her talking about those things, and they should be if she's making it up. But I could also see her just being very confused, and I think the whole discussion about gender and sex right now is quite confused.
Yeah, but as I said, she had been doing all of these videos that make you feel that what she's going to do next is also part of the show. That she's performing. She's doing something for the views.
I believe you're right. Yeah, sure. I take your expertise on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she has so many things that are being done, and you will say, "Oh, that's so cringy." For instance, there was this video that she was doing. I think she was putting pizza. She was like getting her head and face into the pizza, and that was something like will arouse certain men. That's what I think she put that on the subject of the video. I don't actually know. And she also have done like another video about having sex with her couch.
That
So,
that sounds like it could be more arousing to men than pizza face, but
there are like different topics, and I can go on.
yeah.
I mean,
So
the list is really big. So it's not that this girl that have had like a normal steady channel, it's saying now that she has the ID. It's a different
okay.
thing that to say this girl that have had
Mhm.
lots of drama and have had since 2000 and what, 7 or 8, I think she started YouTube. She had lots of ups and downs because of lots of things that she had been doing. Sephora is trying to call us our attention. Sephora, we just called you out, by the way. We just say hi. I'm so sorry, sweetie.
We tried to talk to you, Sephora. You weren't around.
Yeah, but I think she's listening. I think she's listening, but I'm just going to post her comment. It's like a lovely butterfly. But that's what I was saying. Like the more that you see all of these videos from her, you will figure it out that the next thing that she will post is nothing closer to her reality.
Okay, sure.
It's more close to what she believes that it's the best in that time.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep. So, well, okay, I think we got enough. We almost closer to 3 hours. But as I said, I think we're going to do this soon enough. I think I might be doing maybe a live stream just to chit chat with people, like maybe on Friday at the same time. So I think I'm going to also schedule that. But for us, for that short story, I think it will be on Monday or Tuesday. We're going to discuss
Sounds great.
that later. Okay, so Sephora, thank you so much for being here. I know that you haven't been like for that long here in the live stream, but I hope that you watch a little bit, like in the start, like listening to the short story. It's a really good one. It's called From Beyond, and I think you're going to like it. And please share it if you can. And for the people that are going to watch the live stream, then I'm so thankful for you to for being here and to listening to us for about 3 hours. Thank you, Nicholas, for being here. You are a lovely guest, and we have been discussing this. And I think we have a lot of things to be discussing for the next short story.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
Sure. Okay. We'll talk to you soon.